Hello to everybody watching this. Welcome to my video. My name is Rachel, and I am a student at Brigham Young University in Rexburg, Idaho. Though I've been doing my classes online, so I haven't been living in Rexburg. I am majoring in marriage and family studies. We were asked to make these videos talking about our internship experiences. Apparently, these videos will be shared with students for years to come and will determine our legacy, so no pressure, I guess. So here goes. This summer, the summer of 2018, I came home from living in Florida. What can I say? I enjoy hanging with my bud Mickey and could not stop working at Disney World, and decided that this would be a good opportunity for me to find and complete my internship. I hadn't done much research before this, honestly, thinking the day would never come. It just kind of seemed unobtainable. You know how it is. So many classes, so many textbooks, so many tests. Will this ever end? You get the gist. Though you don't need to wait till the very end to do your internship. I actually still have 2 more semesters after this. Anyways, after making a decision to do and find an internship, I began looking up my requirements immediately. The college has a page that will tell you how many hours you'll need, what your internship should entail, and also gives you a list of possible internships. You can find this just by Googling it, which is what I did. It's also, of course, on the school's website, but if you're like me, sometimes it's hard to find things on the website. I seriously just Googled BYUI, marriage and family internships requirements, and voila. Also, you will have to use iPlan to get approved for your internship as well. So, as I mentioned beforehand, the school's page gives you a list of internships that could be possibilities to work at. Most of these were in Idaho and Utah, with a few exceptions in other places. In fact, there was one in Europe, but I wasn't in Idaho or Utah, and I especially wasn't in Europe, and there wasn't an internship in my state, so I used those sites as examples, more guides, and tried to find something that could correspond. One of the example sites to intern was a mortuary, actually, and I had plans to work for the mortuary here, as the mortician is a member of our ward, and not only that, but he's a friend of ours, and we've known him for a long time. I was pretty much dead set on that idea, but then other opportunities kind of fell into my lap. I ended up interning at 2 locations to make up my minimum of 160 hours. Both internships I found were through talking around, just chatting with people when they would ask me, "Oh, what are you doing this summer?" and church members. Even though I had in mind a different kind of internship, these internships came to be. Real quickly, it's important to know all the prerequisites for an internship. I was supposed to take a class before I had mine that I didn't know about or realize. I had permission to take the internship before it. Another thing to keep in mind if you do decide to do it during the summer, which worked out quite nicely, it will be a shorter semester, just half the time. You have the option to start your internship 2 weeks before the semester begins, though, and you can finish 2 weeks after the semester ends. They were actually quite open and said if you needed more time, you could get more time. They also asked that your internship be at least spread over 7 weeks. Part of my internship was at Across the World Adoptions, where I helped with adoptions for children coming from Colombia. Their office was in California, but the woman I worked under had a home office she worked from. I served a mission in Ecuador, so I was able to translate paperwork for parents adopting these children. My responsibilities mainly included a lot of paperwork. This kind of paperwork focused on the needs of the children who were being adopted, what kind of situations they came from, and also how the parents would need to adapt in order to welcome them. I also was in charge of putting together a project on culture shock that could serve the needs of the whole family, adopters and adoptees. My other internship was at the community college's family center here in my town. Again, the lady in charge of this facility is a member of our ward. At first, I didn't think of the family center because it had a playground out front and I thought it was just a preschool. On the page with the requirements for your internship, it says, don't work at a preschool. That's not an internship. But I found out just from chatting with our son, actually, that the Family Center certainly has a preschool attached to it, but that's only a piece of it. There were multiple departments inside, and these departments dealt with family advocacy in the community and promoting families and family health. I spent more time at the Newmark Family Center than I did with across the world adoptions. My experiences and responsibilities there included helping to prepare for and to work at various family workshops. They had multiple of these workshops. They had one each week for a few hours I worked at, but they also had roughly 6 others I was fortunate to help to coordinate and to attend. I also did a lot of secretary work, organized the offices, sent out letters to people, etc. I also helped to publicize for some lectures in the area and attended those as well. Finally, I got to visit other family resource locations in the area to spread the word of what the Family Center was doing. All these areas kind of work together in our community. I became much more aware of all we had to offer in just my small community. A lot of the work I did was kind of the nitty-gritty sort of stuff, like attending meetings about planning. I have to admit they weren't always the most exciting, but they would help me to understand things better. I think that I benefited my areas in a number of ways. First of all, knowing Spanish was obviously a big help, especially with the across-the-world adoptions, but it was also a big help at the Family Center in my community. There's a lot of people who speak Spanish, and they're still struggling a little bit with learning English. They're working at it. I get it. It's hard. I also think just having an extra person for support at the Family Center was nice too. They'd have a lot on their plates, and I think it was nice to just be able to delegate some of that around so people weren't so overwhelmed with everything going on. As for me, I think that I benefited from understanding a little more different kinds of workplaces and also having chances to work both as a team and independently. Knowing what our community offers is nice too, and I even invited some friends to some of the workshops that I thought may benefit them. So it didn't just benefit me, it benefited the people around me. I have to admit that course names from the past kind of meshed together in my head, but a few semesters back I took a class that was all about how to deal with crises in families. I worked more in the background at these internships, but I couldn't help but think of these strategies we learned on how to recognize and solve these problems. The trainings I attended and helped to plan used many of these same theories and strategies that we'd learned before. I also got insight into many of these families' lives from Colombia and got to see how best the families that adopted these children could work through some of the uglier or more traumatic things that perhaps they'd seen. When you do your internship, you'll be expected to keep weekly journals of your experiences and the work you did. Much of the work was often repetitive, but there were always reflection questions. I think that those reflection questions really do help you get something new and unique out of each week. Also, you will be asked to write down 4 goals about what you want to get out of your internship. So keeping in mind the goals you set down from the beginning really helps you to see how far you've come. I had a good experience at my internships, and I'd recommend them to students in the area if they needed hours. They were both kind of in a smaller community on the Oregon coast, so it may not fit everyone's needs. I understand not everyone's in Oregon. Also, an internship with across the world adoptions would probably be better if the intern did speak Spanish. Then again, mine was only through the Colombian section, and they do adoptions for many countries. The Newmark Family Center is always open to answer questions, though. I will provide a link to the website down below if you are interested. There are actually multiple departments, so you could find an internship for maybe another degree if for some reason you're watching this and you're not a marriage family studies degree. As for me, how these internships impacted me and affected me personally came in a number of ways. Concerning the more secular side of things, they helped me professionally to understand possible work sites for this area of study. They helped me to understand different work types and how each person can play an important role. I learned how to take pride in workshops and what I was doing. I also learn a little more about how I work with people, that I'm kind of naturally a team player, and I'm not very assertive, but I I will follow through with what you tell me to do. And I listen to instructions, and I try to understand what they want. And so that's valuable in a workplace too. On a more personal note, I felt a lot of gratitude, especially when it came to playing a part in the adoptions. I never got to meet the children face to face, but I saw pictures of them, and some of them were even adopted, and I saw the pictures of them arriving in the United States, which was really special. If any of you have done research on adoption, it's not cheap. In fact, it's hugely expensive. But it touched me, these children being given a better life, and even though they probably felt forgotten and abandoned, people elsewhere made necessary sacrifices to give them a future. So that was really, really cool actually to play a part in that. The woman I worked under had an especially great love for this work because her sons were adopted, and the younger was adopted from Colombia. It shows me that family isn't always by blood and that God has a plan for us and all his children. You ever watch those videos of children learning they're about to be adopted? Well, don't watch them in public places because you'll probably cry. But being a part of that, even if sometimes the work is slow and tedious and repetitive, is, like I said, something very special that I hold dear. So, yes, I'd say that the internship was a good experience and well worth it. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it answered some questions, or maybe even just gave you an idea of what's out there. If you have any other questions, if you really wanted, you could message me, but honestly, it would be smart to message your internship director or the college. Chances are they know more than I do about all of the technical stuff, but hey, I'm here. So until next time, hope you have a wonderful day, and toodles.